The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, would like to welcome everyone back to another KevCAM Night School tonight. Tonight have Mr. Daniel Roberts helping out with any questions. Come along, Dan, you with us?
I'm here. Hello, hello. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, and Greg Payton to make sure I'm covering all my points and making sure staying on subject and not missing out anything for you guys. Greg, you with us?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you can be the next doctor. All right, so I do see all the regulars in here, so we'll skip the introduction and all that fancy jazz, and we will get right into the chamfer recognition. Now, chamfer recognition is going to be included with if you guys are running 2.5D Pro or higher. If you are running 2D Standard or Express, you will not have the chamfer recognition in there. You will find it under your SolidCAM 2.5D tab over on the right, as well as I think in the AFRM tab, the SolidCAM Automatic Feature Recognition Manager, you'll see it right there as well. So what is chamfer recognition? And basically what it is going to do for you guys is deburr your part. I like to put it at that. If you guys have a specific chamfer call out, as you can see right here, we would use, a different operation for that, or we could do the chamfer on there. But basically, if we're just trying to deburr this part and get rid of our sharp edges on there, that's exactly what we're going to be doing here. So how to get started? We'll just go ahead and open it up here. And basically, it's asking you, first thing is the geometry. Now, it's going to ask you to select on the model. So go ahead and grab your model, and it will go through and find all the geometry that it can chamfer. Now, inside here, you guys have a bunch of different filters. So let's say I already put this chamfer on over here, and I don't want to deburr a chamfer on a 45 and put in another little chamfer up here, so I can filter out all that stuff. Now I can go through and individually unselect each one, or I can just unselect all. Now I can tell it that I want to ignore walls that are less than 90 degrees. So this wall right here is at a 45. Now if we click on our model, you'll see that it will ignore that face right there. So now let's go ahead and take that one off. We can also set up in here, minimize this, minimum diameters. So if you would like to throw a chamfer on a hole, or don't want to throw a chamfer on a hole, we can put that filter in there as well. So right now it's set to, unfortunately, sorry guys, I got this part metric here, but on the specific one here, anything that's smaller than 10, it will completely ignore. Now, if I wanted to kind of see what I had here, maybe I wanted to do chamfer on these holes, I can put it up, click it right on there, and so now anything that is 5.35 millimeters or bigger, it's going to throw a chamfer on there for us. So now, if we go on here, oh, actually I got to make it just a little bit smaller, so we'll just make it 5 millimeter. And now you can see that it includes these holes in there as well as the ones back over here. So if you want to kind of chamfer out some holes as well as, or deburr some holes as well as doing your part, you definitely have that option as well. Now our last filter is ignore edges followed by a fillet. So in here, if we had a fillet on there, it would ignore those as well. And we can do it based off of the entire model, or we can do it based off of just specific faces. So if I'm just looking to do this face right here, it's going to chamfer everything on there just on that specific face. So if you have multiple different faces and you just want to pay more attention to one particular area, you guys can definitely do that as well. But for right now, let's go ahead and put this back at 10 millimeter. And unselect that, get back to my solid models here. Okay.
Now, Kevin, on the ignore edges followed by fillet, what type of fillets is it referencing there?
Usually it's going to reference fillets like a radius. I don't know the exact diameter size, but right here, let's find out. And unless you know Greg right offhand. And oh, we're in the wrong one. Nope.
I was wondering if it was going to be fillets that are set up along the edge of the selected geometry.
Diameter and fillet filter. Chamfer will not be performed on any solid. So it looks like with any fillet feature. So while this model was being, let's hop out of here so we can kind of get back to it here. Well, this we'll do edit part and go to features. So any fillet that was used by using this fillet option right here, it will not chamfer. So if we had a fillet on there of any sort inside SolidWorks, SolidCAM will recognize that and not do any fillet on or any chamfer on top of that fillet. So you guys can go in there and really fine tune what you want to be chamfered.
So like that square boss right there, the corners are potentially filleted features.
Yep, but
are you talking about
it's going to be
running perpendicular
yes,
to the plane?
So what I say is, we did a fillet like that, it would ignore. It's quite large. Let's do a 1 millimeter. So if we had a fillet on here, it would ignore this line right here as a fillet, not a internal fillet or an external fillet.
Now, is that done automatically, or are you able to take that the filter off so it won't ignore it?
Yeah, you can turn the filter on so it will ignore it. And
okay.
You can set that up as well as your in your templates as well.
So there's a way to adjust it either way, depending on if you want to ignore it or not ignore it.
Exactly.
But it's going to recognize it. Okay, perfect.
And I've never done one with a fillet, but hey, we're doing SolidCAM night class tonight, so let's just try it. So now we have that fillet on there, and let's go to our chamfer recognition, new, and ignore edges followed by a fillet as well as there. And so now, since we have a fillet on here, you'll see that it's not going to try to put a chamfer on there. So we did unselect, do that again. You'll see that it's going to try to perform a edge break or a deburr chamfer on top of that fillet, and obviously we don't want that on there. So we'll go ahead and turn that on, and it will ignore all that for us. To make that clear, Greg?
Yeah, I believe so. I just wanted the distinction to be made that the fillets that are coplanar to the XY axis will still be picked up.
Yep.
It'd be anything that's vertical.
Perfect.
Or I guess perpendicular.
Now we can also come in here and click the modify, and if we wanted to come in here and maybe uncheck one of these, or if we didn't want it to do a specific area, we could come in there and do geometry modifications there. Now the 3D Protect, I'm going to go over this in just a little bit here, but I kind of want to show it gouging into the part, and then I will show you what it's going to look like when we turn the 3D Model Protect on. So now we can go ahead and grab our chamfer tool, And all the tools that are supported by the chamfer recognition are right here. So you can use a face mill, taper ball mill, engraving tool, chamfer mill, center drill, spot drill, and a regular drill to perform this deburring functionality in here. Obviously, some of these are going to work better than others, but you guys do have that option there to use those different tools. There already is a spot drill in here, so I'm going to grab that. We have a 8mm spot drill, so I'll go ahead and accept that. Levels. The only thing you guys have to worry about is in here is how much of a deburr or chamfer would you like on that part file. So for right now, we'll just do a 0.5mm chamfer. And then in the technology section, do we want to work more towards the tip, or do we want to work more towards the larger diameter? So basically what's going on here is, what's the distance on that 45 there that you guys would like to work on? We want to work more on the tip or more towards the shank side. So for this one, we got 8mm, so we'll put it maybe at 6mm if we want to work more towards the top. Now we do have the option to do one-way or zigzag. Would you like to climb cut or conventional cut? As well as you guys can change the feed rates for inside the corners. So if you reach a corner inside here, we can change that feed rate in the corner, and then as it hits a straight shot, it will speed up. Safety distance. How far do we want to keep that tool away from any walls or any areas that might compromise hitting that tool on there? So, as well as if we want to do a step downs, if you're cutting, this is going to be more or less if you're cutting harder materials. So if you want to take multiple passes, I would suggest doing an extension overlap just by a little bit, so we're not starting and stopping at that exact same point right there. So you definitely can put a, I'm we're working with metric here. We can put like a 1mm overlap in there, as well as an extension. And then the minimum edge length. So if we're, this one is not one I use very often here. It's not giving me information on it. Chamfer, levels, technology, and cutting. So so basically if you have a chain that is, let's say you don't want it to cut just the short little pieces, you want the ones that are on the longer cuts, you can put a minimum length in there. Is basically like a filter, like what we were looking at with the geometry before. Now if we go to the link, we can control our lead in, lead out here. Let's just save and calculate and see what we got going on here. And let's go ahead and simulate this here. And you can see we got some crashing going on. So we can see that we're kind of wiping out some of these big areas right here to compensate for that. So now this is where it comes in handy to go to your geometry and turn on your 3D model protect. And we can do a gouge protection or offset of 1mm. So it's going to stay away from any gouge by 1mm now. Now, if we come in here, we can see that we are now pretty much deburring our part all the way through. Now, since I told it we want to work more on the shank side, it's going to be more working on, let me kind of single step this through here. Get this zoomed around. So we are working more towards that top side right now. So now, if we want to work more on that tip, what we can do is go back to our technology and put our cutting diameter back at 1. And now when we get going here, you can see that we're working more on the tip versus, so before we were working up here and now we're working in here. And now this does come into factor that if you're trying to get that that larger tool into smaller areas, so we're not hitting the side shaft there or shanking out, you can definitely use that option to go through there as well. But let's go and play this through here. We are hitting over here for some reason, so let's take a look at that. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch our part back so we have that fillet that's not on there. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. And we'll come back to our chamfer faces and go to our geometry. Oops, need to turn on the ignore faces. There we go. Got our 3D model protect. Working on the 1 millimeter tip. And I'm going to put our safety offset at 1 millimeter as well. There we go. So I think what was happening is I was putting, I had a 0.1 as a safety. So we're staying 0.1 away from that tool from the edge here and forgetting that we're working on metric. So I just had to change that value to something a little bit bigger here. So now you can see, if we zoom down, we got a nice chamfer surface, basically everywhere that tool can fit into, as well as ignoring these previous 45s that are in there. And you can see it's starting and stopping to avoid that clearance in there. But definitely it's nice to have in there. Now, if you're looking for more of a light chamfer, we can definitely go to our levels and maybe put this at 0.1. And you have a nice light edge break on there or deburr. Now, when you guys go to run this through your stock target comparison, it will show, I have my tolerances set a little high. Let's go with a deeper. This is going to be a pretty heavy deburr. But now, if I'm running my stock target comparison here, you're going to see that we're actually gouging into the part. And the reason why it's showing us as a gouge in there is because our target does not have that in there. So our target model does not have that drawn in there, so it thinks it's gouging into the part. So just kind of keep that in mind when you guys are, you know, you run all your operations through and you see that gouge in there. That's just that deburring operation that is going a little deep. And like I said, that's all controlled by your chamfer depth right here. So
now with the chamfer, is there a way to prevent that from occurring? So if you see that pop up where it looks like it's gouging, a way to kind of go back and check yourself to rectify the mistake?
If you think about it, we technically are gouging into our part, because in our model that we got from our engineers, this is the model that they sent us. They wanted this square top on here. Now, if you were to run, you know, a router deburr tool around this, it would be gouging into the part as well. So it's just letting us know that there is no way to prevent that, just because we're adding an operation and we're taking away from the original engineer's model, I guess you'd say, at that point. I'm kind of fumbling my words here. Greg, do you have a better way of explaining that?
Yeah, that
it's
makes
just
sense.
showing the difference between the target model and what you're actually cutting.
Yeah. So,
right.
I mean, technically, yes, we are gouging the part, but it's gouging the part in our control, because we have that full control of that gouge per se right here by our chamfer depth. So.
That makes
I
sense.
think the warning from Kevin is just to be cognizant of you're doing this intentionally.
Yep.
So if you do see something that shows up with the red mark, there is a reason for it.
Yep.
And I think most guys will be able to recognize that they're the ones who put that operation on there. I think it's more for the guys that are looking at things through shop floor editor, or maybe looking at guys on the floor looking at the simulation, and just quick eyeballing that there's some red showing a gouge, but it is intentional.
Good question.
In this case.
All right. Anything else? Greg, am I missing anything else? Or Dan, anything else that you can think of?
I think one thing that we went by pretty quickly was the geometry selection.
Okay.
I know that all of our geometry selections have been the automatic mode, but maybe a quick refresh on just selecting faces and isolating
okay.
specific geometries.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know you did it up at the top where those two chamfers are already on those extended bosses, but maybe just show it off again real quick on one of the other faces.
So if we're trying to just do deburr anything that's on this level right here, if you guys switch us from solid body over to faces, then we can click on here, then it's just going to chamfer anything that is right on this face. So now, by doing it by faces, we can come in here, save and calculate. And now we can see that it's only going to work on that specific face. So maybe like in this case right here, we would like a heavy deburr on this one, but the rest of the part, we want a lighter deburr. So what we can do at that point is we can just make a copy. And now we'll go grab new geometry by faces. And maybe this face right here, we would want a 0.5 millimeter deburr. And then maybe on this one, go by faces, maybe on this face right here, I want a deburr as well as this one. Oop, I need to unselect all here. We're going to ignore the 45. So this face I want to chamfer along with this face, along with this face. And I can change this one up to maybe I want a 0.3 millimeter edge break or chamfer on there. So now, just by doing quick saving copies, I was able to tell it what faces that I would like to. So this face, I wanted a 1 millimeter chamfer. This face down here, I wanted a 0.5, and then these three top faces, I wanted a 0.3. So if we go ahead and show that now. I obviously have to change my safety on that one, but you can see that we got a heavy chamfer there, a light chamfer up here, as well as, so we got heavy, medium, and small. So you guys definitely do have
another good
options. Go ahead.
I was going to say another good thing that this can be used for, especially on this part, is where that one rectangular boss is. It's kind of a shallow step up from that floor feature. So if you had wanted to attack that with a smaller cutting diameter than you would the rest of the part, because the rest of the part's pretty free, but you're kind of limited in Z height when you're choosing your cutting diameter. So you can also modulate your cut based off of that.
Yeah, great point. So I think what Greg's talking about is our cutting diameter right here. So if we wanted to do, you know, like a 6 millimeter, work more towards the shank. And obviously we went too deep. because we are cutting actually into our face. So you guys can definitely play with that as well.
Yeah, so you could use like a 1 millimeter cutting diameter like you had before on that surface, and then a 6 millimeter for everything else.
Yep. So let's hop over there. And this is something new that they added, more along the lines of this geometry filter in here. Before, basically, when it came out in, what was it, 2018, I want to say, when Chamfer recognition came out. Do you remember, Greg?
I feel like it was before that.
Okay.
I feel like it was a 2016 thing.
But basically,
or even possibly before that.
Yeah. Basically, you would click on the part and it would just chamfer everything for you. And to go through and deselect stuff was pretty tough. So what they did is in here, added all these different filters, as well as I didn't cover in here, you can do without vise, or this does support the configurations as well, but you know, applying a minimum diameter, ignore edges with a fillet on there. That's one thing that was suggested by you guys. You know, ignore walls that are less than, you know, 90 degrees or so on and so forth. So definitely there's a lot more functionality in there. And if there is something that, as you guys are using this, that you would like to see in there as another filter, definitely let us know. We can add that in there. Now, to kind of go back in time a little bit, if you wanted to do this more, I don't know how to say it, but a little bit more manually. Yeah. You can come in here and do it as a profile operation. So maybe if you just want to do just a single line, so we'll just grab this guy here, do a constant Z. Now this one, the chain direction is going to matter, where before with the chamfer recognition, it knows the direction it needs to travel. We'll go ahead and grab our spot drill there. Our levels, so our upper level would be here, and then we can put our chamfer in there as 0.1. Then where it comes into factor here is your technology. We can switch this over to chamfer, and it's asking kind of the same thing as what we did before. You know, what cutting diameter do we want to work on there? So obviously, you know, with that shallow floor there, we want to work more on the tip, and we can do our save and calculate and go ahead and simulate this. And this is going to get you the exact same thing as what the chamfer recognition did, but you know, this is more geared more towards that manual way of doing things. So,
and you are going to lose some options if you do it manually. Part of the automatic chamfering that we have is those items that Kevin was showing off, where you can put in a safety distance. You can do your 3D model. Yep. Gouge check. Options like that aren't available within the profiling operation.
Yep. So if
there
we
are
were to,
some major benefits to using chamfer recognition.
Absolutely. Yeah, if we were to do this as a profile operation, I would have to break this internal area up into, you know, 2 different chains, but then I would have to come in here and, well, let's just do it. Let's grab this one. Actually, no, I want to do reverse, accept that, and then come in here, grab that guy. Now, if we were to save and calculate this, you can see that we're wiping out those pegs there. So what we need to do is, at that point, we'd have to go into our technology tab, go to our geometry area, and shorten up by 0.5 millimeter, 0.5, apply all. Nope, that's actually.
No, those are minus extensions.
Yep. It's like, I don't see them changing here. So I'd have to come in here and play with that. So I can still see that. I'm still going to be wiping that out. So do like a minus 1.5 maybe as a minus 1.5. We'll apply that to all. And you can see
now what you don't get with that preview though is the links, because I think you're still going to wipe out with the arc in and arc out.
Yeah. Yep. So and then,
I think the moral of the story for everybody watching at home is to embrace the power of the chamfer recognition.
As you can see, it's definitely a lot more labor intensive here to try to get stuff. Yeah, see, I'm still crashing in there. So I'm going to have to keep going back and forth and playing with that, reducing that extension on there to keep getting it small so I'm not coming straight down on my part and wrecking our part. So you can see all the work that goes in there versus just coming over to chamfer recognition, click on that face, and we're done. We don't have to worry about anything else. So, any questions from our customers? All right, I don't see anything else coming through, so I guess we'll wrap it up there. Next week, we will be covering drill recognition, and then we're going to start getting into eye machining. Bigsby didn't understand what I said, I guess. So we got our chamfer recognition here. We're going to hop over to drill recognition next week, and then we're going to start getting into eye machining. I wanted to break eye machining up into 4 different parts just for the simple reason of there's a lot of guys that both myself, I'm sure Greg, are coming across with eye machining and these new features. They're still using the old strategy versus some of the new strategies that are in there. And there's a lot of, not a lot, but there's some confusion on where it should be used, where it shouldn't be used, as in the feature recognition. So we're going to be doing some classes there. But for those of you guys that have been around the night classes for the last few years, October, I will be pretty much out in the field farming. So we won't have any classes the month of October unless I can step away, because doing it from the tractor, it gets a little tough. My mouth starts shaking everywhere and not as good. But all right, I'll stop rambling. All right, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it, got something out of it tonight, and any questions or concerns, definitely let me know. Any suggestions that you guys do have for these night classes, send those over to me via email and we'll get those added in there, as well as any enhancement requests, like I said before. So, and for those of you guys that are watching on YouTube, my email will be in the description below. So, all right, we'll wrap it up there. Unless Greg or Daniel has anything else to say before we kill it.
No, I think we got all my questions covered.
Yeah, mine as well.
Perfect. All right, everyone. We will talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye now.
Have a good evening.